Hey, Adam here from Cinemadness doing another retro review. Uh, I'm doing the Phantasm series as voted on our social media. You guys wanted to see Phantasm be reviewed, so I'm reviewing Phantasm. You also wanted to see Nightmare on Elm Street series reviewed, and I've decided I'll probably do that too, because why not? Why not have an excuse to watch horror movies? Because this is our countdown to Halloween. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about Phantasm, the original 1979 Don Coscarelli. I can never get his name right. Don Coscarelli directed film in the Phantasm series. Coscarelli has done a bunch of films that I really like. He did Bubba Hotep, John Dies at the End, and Beastmaster. I mean, come on, how can you say no to those movies? My description of the movie, if I were going to tell you if you haven't seen it, is it's an 80s horror movie shot in the 70s. I mean, it is shot in 1979, so it's like on the cusp of being in the 80s, but it's very 80s. I mean, the horror, the creatures, and the nudity say 80s, but the hair and the clothes says 70s. And speaking of hair, Motorhead's Lemmy has actually said that the song Ace of Spades was named that way because of the main character's hair. The 70s shag looked like an ace of spades. That's a true story. You can look that up. It's essentially a story about brotherly love. That's all it is. Young boy Michael has an older brother, Jody, and they lost their parents, and they kind of like stick together like brothers do. Jody's like in maybe his early 20s, and Michael's a teenager. And the movie opens with the sudden death of one of their mutual friends, and they have to go to a funeral. Well, things get weird after the funeral when Michael sees the mortician, known only as the Tall Man, played by the late, great Angus Scrimm. He picks up a coffin all by himself and throws it in the back of a hearse. Well, that seems weird to anyone because, there's dead weight in a full coffin. But Michael takes it upon himself to find out what's happening at this weird funeral home, so he breaks into it to investigate. And that, on the surface, is the essential plot of the movie. A kid gets nosy, and the mortician fights off the intruder. Of course, that's a very basic way to describe the film. And there's also a small, almost forgotten subplot about how Michael is worried that he's going to lose his older brother, either by death or by him moving away. There's hints of it at the beginning, and there's a little bit at the end, but there's kind of not really, that kind of just gets like shoved under the door for the rest of the movie. The supernatural stuff is a whole nother aspect of the film. The Tall Man is not of this world. He is, well, tall. He's intimidating and he's commanding. I mean, his one word of boy, that's usually that's used in a lot of, actually it's used in a lot of things, a lot of death metal stuff and stuff. Even the
funeral is about to begin, sir.
That's used in a lot of things too, and that's basically all he says. He's not in the movie a lot, even though he's the villain of the series. He's kind of like Pinhead in that aspect. In the first Hellraiser movie, Pinhead's not really in the movie that much, but he's the cover guy, and he's the main baddie. His minions, on the other hand, are the main focus of the movie, as villains, as doing the horror work, so to speak. They're little dwarf characters, like children size, not like that high, and they wear big flowy brown cloaks, and I like to call them evil Jawas, because that's what they are. They're evil, and they look like Jawas, so evil Jawas. So they've been compared to Jawas before, so I'm not the only person that says that. They do his bidding. They terrorize Michael and Jody. There's also some woman only titled the Lady in Lavender. played by Kathy Lester. She is used by the tall man as a tool to lure men to their deaths. So he can use their bodies in his nefarious ways, which I'm not going to get into because that could spoil things. It's really hard to talk about this movie without giving away spoilers, or go into the other movies to spoil those movies, because it's a series. There's 5 of them, 4 of them directed by Coscarelli. The 5th one was, well, we'll get into the 5th one when we talk about it. You actually have to see all four of Coscarelli's movies to get the whole background behind everything that's going on. And I also don't want to talk about stuff because it gives away twists and stuff that this movie alone works on. But there's still one more iconic villain or villainous characters we can't talk about, or we can't forget when we talk about Phantasm, is the flying chrome death spheres. I don't have one. The Blu-ray collection comes with one. I don't own the Blu-ray collection. I have them on digital. So I'm just playing with an empty... I'm not even going to put graphics in or anything. It's just... You just have to use your imagination. So, no. The flying death spheres are these tools that are used by the tall man. They are like little homing balls. They're about the size of a baseball. In fact, the effect that they got to throw it, have it fly, is a reverse from using a major league pitcher would throw the ball and they'd film it. That's how you film things. They film it and they played it in reverse, and that's how it gives it that weird otherworldly flight. Well, these balls are just as iconic to the franchise as the Tall Man. They are used in all the publicity. They are used, well, like I said, they're in the Blu-ray collection. I mean, they come in, they're inside the actual ball. And that's where most of the gore comes from. These balls, they, have little hooks in them, they have drills in them, and they even have a spout in the back for blood to shoot out. So that's the villainous stuff about the movie. I also want to throw a huge shout out to the character Reggie, played by the charismatic Reggie Bannister, who is the unsung hero of the series. He's Jodie's best friend, and he's basically a surrogate brother to Michael. They're that close. He's a musician, he's an ice cream man, and he's an unintentional badass whose character just gets better as the series goes on. And we'll talk about Reggie even more as I go through the series, because he's like an Ash character from the Evil Dead. He's a bumbling idiot, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, he's right there as being a badass. The horror in this movie ranges from physical to psychological to otherworldly. There has definitely not been a movie like Phantasm up until its making. Its original runtime was over 3 hours, and it was cut down to 1.5 hours. So there are some disjointed plot lines, like, well, the tall man and his evil Jawas. Where do they come from? What is their origin other than being not from this earth? And like I said, it gets put out in more and more of the sequels. There's also this old psychic lady that gives Michael the hand and box fear test straight out of Dune. I mean, there's no taking liberties with it. I mean, it's straight out of Dune. And then it's never seen again in this film. Phantasm is definitely a low-budget indie horror film, and I think that's what gives it legs to stand on. The grittiness and the rough editing adds to its horror charm. Here's my little horror charm. It's like a little dangling Jason. Anyway, that being said, I highly recommend the remastered version. Even though the original is very gritty, very dark, the remastered version does not take anything away from that. It's just a visual cleanup, and you can really see how well shot and well lit the movie is. Most of the scenes take place in the dark, and I don't know how many horror movies I've watched where I complain where you can't see anything in dark scenes. Phantasm lights the darkness perfectly, and you could still tell it's dark, You can still see everything that you need to see in the dark, and it doesn't look lit. There's very little score in the movie, and what of it there is usually the main title. And it's a good thing that main title is catchy and memorable, because you will hear it a lot. It has been a long time since I've watched the original Phantasm, so it was a treat to go back and explore it from the beginning. If you're a horror fan, this movie and series should be in your collection right now. Go check and see if it is, because if it's not, give the first movie a watch, and then you'll want the rest of it. It's over there. My collection's over there. Or is it over there? I don't know. The video's switched. And there are some cool and also confusing twists that happen around the third act. Feeling like I watched it again for the first time, a 1979 indie movie that plays like an 80s supernatural creature horror movie is a breath of fresh air. And not once does this movie feel like it was shot cheaply. The acting is fantastic, the effects are good, and like I said before, the shooting and lighting were great. Overall, I give the original Phantasm 4 flying death orbs out of 5. Still, no effects. So that's my take on Phantasm. Check back soon for my review on Phantasm 2. And stay tuned for more reviews and watch our show on the Cinemadness podcast. I'm there. I'm there with Allison and Roman. They're on the poster behind me. There we go. Once again, it's a mirror version on the video. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this retro review. I try not to spoil things, so the reviews aren't really detailed. If you want to see a detailed review, let me know. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and always like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time.